Welcome to the Spiral Up podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Wieme, a peak performance coach and business strategist dedicated to helping you see what's possible within you, the blind spots that are holding you back, and the solutions to ensure success and fulfillment without the hustle. I use my secret sauce of metaphysics, brain science, and scripture to work with God to manifest your ideal life and business. If you're ready to create massive forward momentum in your business and bust through the blocks that drag you down, join me on the Spiral Up journey and create the clarity, confidence, and consistency to become the CEO that lives your life by design. It's time to create the sustainable impact, income, and time freedom you desire faster. Now is the time to spiral up. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Spiral Up podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Wieme, and today I want to talk to you about something that I think is going to help a lot of us. And it doesn't matter if it pertains to your business or if it pertains to your personal life and some relationships that you're in. I want to talk about how to know if you are honoring your peace or if you're sabotaging yourself. So I've been going through something recently, and I've really had to get into this self-examination and really identify, am I getting to a point in my healing where I'm recognizing my worth and I'm recognizing what I deserve and the boundaries that I want to set, or am I sabotaging myself by walking away? And so if you have ever sat there thinking, did I just set a boundary or am I running away? This is completely for you. You see, I have been kind of dealing with something over the last couple of months, and it's been unnecessarily stressful. And it's something that I think has been such a beautiful, beautiful gift in my own reflection, my own growth and evolution on this beautiful journey here on earth, right? But it's also been forcing me to really look at my triggers and look at my patterns, look at the conditioning that I have, look at ways that I was modeled behavior in the past and what I am choosing to do now. And is it coming from a place of conditioning and patterns, or is it coming from a place of healing and growth and peace? And oh my gosh, you guys, there's a specific situation I'm thinking about. And I got to be honest with you, it has really, really been unnecessarily stressful. And it feels like I keep telling myself that I can fix it, or if I just communicate in this way, then this can be better, or maybe I just need to allow for this, or maybe I just need to get feedback here. And I'm trying to fix it. And at the end of the day, I had to get to this point where it's no, this is not worth my energy anymore. This is not worth the spiraling down that sometimes this can take me down that vibrational scale. And I really have to stand up into my own honor and identify no, this is not for me. And maybe that, I think I've said in past recent podcasts, recognizing that sometimes it's not my shit, right? Sometimes I'm placed in somebody's life so that I can be the reflection and the mirror for them and their growth and journey. And so who knows, right? Every one of us are faced with these different situations, and it really is an eye-opening experience, right? When you start to recognize holy crap, I have been sabotaging myself. I have been avoiding things versus no, I am ready to stand up. I'm ready to sit up. I'm ready to own who I am. And that is no longer for me. All right. And here's the thing, we're not conditioned to trust ourselves. We are conditioned to doubt our gut. We are conditioned oftentimes to overthink and overanalyze and to ask other people's opinions versus just really knowing and trusting our intuition, which is one of the most beautiful gifts that I get to give my Spiral Up students, is this ability to learn how to tap into their inner knowing, to know how to not only hear where God is trying to lead us, but to trust ourselves that we're hearing him properly and correctly and being willing to and courageous enough to follow where he's taking us, right? And so oftentimes it's this trusting of our gut versus the fear and the unhealed patterns and wanting to back away. And the specific example I'm going to give you has to do with, deciding, do I want to continue with this relationship in this project, or do I want to allow myself the chance to step away? And you guys, I just got to admit, it felt hard from the beginning. And it's gosh dang, this is not how I thought this was going to be. And it just felt resistant energy from almost day one. And I kept telling myself, oh my goodness, like, what am I bringing to this space? And what am I supposed to learn? And recognizing patterns that I've had of avoidance in the past. And it's like, okay, I don't want to fall into self-sabotage, because I remember being a kid, like, and I'm curious if any of you guys can relate to this. Like, when my parents would argue, my dad would get overwhelmed, and he did not like conflict, and he did not like, crucial conversations, and he would just like leave, and he would get in his pickup, and he would drive off, and he'd go for a ride. My mom would do the same thing sometimes, where she would just like take off, and she would leave, and she would go cool off somewhere, but she just like left and avoided the situation. And so I don't recall, I'm not saying they never did this, but I don't recall witnessing and learning how to have these crucial conversations where there's a resolution in almost real time, right? It was like the more heated the argument, the more likely there was for one of them to essentially avoid and leave and not deal with the situation. And so I learned over time that when I was faced with things that were hard, I would get into this pattern, right, of pulling back, of not wanting to be in the hard. And then when I would find myself getting into these cycles of like over self-reflection, right? Like, oh, what am I supposed to do about this? What am I supposed to learn from this? What did I do to bring this on? Blah, blah, blah. And again, it was more of this like shame and guilt, which created even more of a withdrawing pattern in my life. And it hasn't been serving me very well. And so over the last several years, I've been really working on my own self-worth and really owning who God says I am, and learning how to trust my discernment and learning how to trust God. And so in this recent situation, here I was faced with this decision. Do I want to essentially remove myself from this project and remove myself from this, toxic relationship? Or am I just exhibiting patterns of avoidance? And am I trying to run away from something that's hard? And that, am I supposed to learn from growing and fixing this and facing the hard, right? And I really had to pray on this and recognize that there is a place and time, right, where we are given the gifts of stepping into something uncomfortable so that we can grow and we can learn. But there's also this beautiful gift of recognizing when it's not for us and when it's time to just politely say no thanks and step away. And so what I want to do today on this episode is really help you identify, how do you know if it's, this beautiful alignment, or if it's sabotage. And really it comes down to whether it's one of two things, right? Energy, if it's feels energetic, if it feels in this energetic alignment, it's that alignment, that's peace. But if it is very emotionally charged, that is where we're likely to see some sabotaging behavior, specifically very reactive emotions in the space that we're in, okay? So what I want to do is briefly just kind of go into exactly what alignment is, and then we're going to talk about what sabotage is, and I'm going to help you to learn how to decipher and what you can do to really discern what your next step is, okay, in the most healthy, beautiful, peaceful way. Now, the first thing I want to mention is alignment, right? So what is alignment? Alignment really is just this energetic, alignment, right? But it's more than that. It's this clarity, it's this peace, even if it's not convenient. It's doesn't feel frantic. It just feels like peace on the other side of the choice, and it feels lighter. I'm going to give you an example. So even though I've been going through this whole thing, like, it's interesting how, God has brought in other examples into my life, and I'm seeing them and noticing them. So I have a client who came to me, and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm really struggling with this decision of whether or not I should go and say yes to this opportunity or say no. And we were able to work through some of the processes that I'm going to get to here in just a moment. But what was so beautiful is that she sent me a text message the next day, and she's like, I made my decision. And I just got to tell you, I feel so much lighter. Like, even though it's going to be hard and I'm going to have this hard conversation and I'm going to miss out, I just feel lighter. I feel at peace. And that is exactly how we knew that she was in alignment. And so once you make the decision, you're going to feel like it just feels right. It's going to feel peaceful. It's going to feel lighter, even though it might not be convenient, even though it might not still be easy, quote unquote. It's just going to feel aligned. All right. On the other hand, though, if you are really leaning more towards sabotaging behavior, you're going to feel this sense of unnecessary urgency. You're going to feel avoidance. You're like, you want to just run the heck the other way as fast as you can, right? And there's going to be a lot of fear-based stories that are going on in your head. The inner critic that you have going on in your brain is going to mask itself as intuition. It's going to tell you things in order to try to keep you safe. This is really the self-protection, part of your brain. And sabotaging is meant to keep you safe. It's the ego meant to protect itself. And oftentimes, I'm just going to give you a little side note, is that oftentimes we sabotage ourselves right before the breakthrough because your ego is like, holy crap, something's changing, something's shifting. I need to put the brakes on, right? So we'll oftentimes start to sabotage ourselves right before we should, be able to transition to that next level and spiral up to the next level. So if you find yourself in this space, I do not want you to get sucked down into the lower vibrational scale of, guilt and shame. I want you to be like, isn't that interesting? Look at it from a curiosity and love and acceptance, right? And be like, isn't that interesting? I'm totally sabotaging myself right now. I must really be ready to make myself into the next version of me. And so, okay, my subconscious, my ego is really trying hard to protect what it knows. And so I'm going to actually use to look at this as a good sign versus to shame myself that I suck and that I shouldn't be doing this. And I'm never going to get this right and all the crap, right? Because that is not helpful for you. So sabotaging is also going to feel very much like shrinking down. It's going to be making yourself smaller. You oftentimes will find yourself ghosting somebody else or essentially avoiding the conversations. You'll procrastinate, not doing what it is that you need to do. And when you finally make the decision, that decision oftentimes, rather than leading to peace and just knowing that it just feels aligned, you actually tend to feel more anxious and you feel really guilty for the decision that you made. And then once you've made that decision, oftentimes people will get into a pattern of justifying that decision. They'll over-explain things. They'll say things that will try to make it feel clean. It'll try to make it feel aligned. But really what they're doing is they're talking in circles, trying to justify the decision that they made because the decision was not in alignment. It is actually fear-based, emotionally based sabotage. And again, it's done for your protection. So how in the heck do you know? How do you know if you're in alignment versus how do you know that you are in sabotaging? And we've already kind of talked about it a little bit, but I want to make it super, super clear. The first thing that I want you to acknowledge is that the right decision, the aligned decision, the one that God is leaning you towards, is always going to be based in love versus fear. God is not the God of fear, right? And so when you think about it and you ask yourself, am I making my decision based off of love? What would I love? Versus what am I afraid of? Okay, so if I were to, go back to the example of my client, she really would have loved to not say yes to this experience so that she could do something else that was more important to her, that aligned more with her core values. Okay, so if she were being asked, what would you love? It was to do the other thing, okay, not to say yes to this opportunity. Her fear-based mind was telling her, I fear that I'm going to let people down. I fear, that I'm going to miss out. I fear that I'm going to upset people. I fear that this is going to impact my career. I fear that blah, 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 right? Fear-based thinking and fear-based motivation is not of the Lord. And so anytime you're making your decisions based off of fear and not love, you are actually in the pattern of self-sabotage and you're trying to keep yourself safe. And the enemy is going to try to keep you from doing the aligned action that the Lord is trying to lead you towards. So always ask yourself, am I making this decision out of love versus fear? Okay. The other thing that I love to utilize is this concept that our body will be able to tell us exactly what we need to know. I teach this to my clients, and this has been one of the biggest game changers in their lives because they are able to literally ask yes, no questions and get a response in their body that tells them yes or no. And really the most basic way for you guys to do this, there's other more advanced ways that I teach, but the most basic way that I'm going to teach you here on the show is to think about it from this expansiveness versus a restrictiveness or constricted feeling, okay? So if I were to ask you, or if I asked my client, should you go to this event? Should you say yes to this project, right? If she felt like it felt expansive, and how I feel expansiveness in my body is that I almost feel like I can breathe bigger and deeper, I feel like it's almost like my soul, my aura is like expanding and getting bigger around me. That's how it feels. It feels like, I don't know, I just come alive. Like it's just this expansive feeling. If it is a no, it feels very restrictive. It almost feels like somebody's sitting on my chest. It feels like I can't breathe. It feels like somebody's taking my spirit and they shoving it into a tiny little box and making me small. Sometimes I will get like like a gut punch, icky, gross feeling in my stomach as well. That is restrictive for me. So yes is expansive, no is restrictive. And so if the opportunity feels expansive, then that is something that I want you to lean into. But if it's like, no, my body is telling me like this does not feel right, that is a no. And I want you to lean into that. I want you to learn how to trust that. Okay. So expansiveness versus restrictiveness. The next thing that you can do is ask yourself, well, once I make this decision, am I going to be proud of the choice that I made tomorrow? Okay. Remember that choice, when it's made in alignment, is going to leave you with this feeling of peacefulness, even though it might not be easy. You might still have to have a hard conversation. You might still have to miss out on something. You might still have to, do something else, but it's going to feel peaceful and it's going to feel right. Versus if you are making that decision based on sabotage, you're going to find yourself justifying and over explaining and trying to twist and manipulate things to try to feel better about it. And so I'm just going to ask you, if you had to ask yourself, how am I going to feel about this tomorrow? And if you're going to feel proud of yourself, then that is absolutely a hint that you are in alignment. And then the last question that I have for you is, are you avoiding discomfort or are you honoring your truth? And I think that this is one of the things that I really had to acknowledge is like in my specific decision around this, like the decision that I'm going to make, that I have made, that going to be having difficult conversations in the next couple of weeks about, once I made the decision, it felt right. But it still meant that I had to deal with uncomfortable things. If I were to be sabotaging myself, and if I were to, because I'm walking away from something that I had committed to because it is not in alignment. The project, the people, not in alignment. And I really was struggling with this. It's like, okay, is this me going back to that old avoidant patterns, or is this me really honoring my gut and knowing where the Lord is leading me? And this is where I had to be really honest with myself that my old patterns would essentially just make me just try to justify and make excuses for this person or these projects. They would be like, oh, I'm sure that they're going to get better. Making excuses for them. It's going to be like, I'm going to be fine. I just need to teach myself better coping, and I'm going to just ignore it. I'm going to pretend like it doesn't exist. And guess what's going to happen? Because it's not honoring my core values, is actually going to continue to fester up and it's going to feel more uncomfortable. But in the meantime, I think that I'm avoiding discomfort. I'm avoiding the hard conversation. I'm avoiding the fallout of making a decision and stepping away from something. And that feels better, but in the long term, it's not. And so oftentimes we think that when we avoid conflict, we're avoiding conflict with the person. But when we do that, we're actually choosing conflict with ourselves. And I remember my coach, Debbie, telling me that. It's like, oh my gosh, yes, you're totally right. And so are you avoiding discomfort or are you honoring truth? And even though I'm about to have some really hard conversations and I'm about to have some conversations with people that I never thought I would need, and is possibly could not be some of my most favorite days, right? I know at the end of it that this is exactly where I'm supposed to go. So that's how I know. So I'm going to leave you today with just a couple of different things that I want you to do whenever you are faced with this particular situation, okay? There's 4 steps that I want you to do. Number 1 is I want you to pause. Whenever you're faced with the decision, do I need to, I need to step away from something? And is it out of alignment or is it out of avoidance? Is it out of alignment or is it out of sabotage? I want you to just allow yourself to pause. Don't rush into it and give yourself some space to be able to feel into what's going on, okay? Step 2 is I want you to name your emotion. So is it the fear? Is it the doubt? Is it the justification that's coming up? Or is it peace and relief? Even though it might be scary, it still feels peaceful. It still feels light. It still feels relief. What would you love versus fear? And asking yourself, is this based off of love or fear? Number 3, tune into your body. Tune into your body. Feel it. And I don't want you to think about it from a logical perspective. I want you to allow yourself to somatically feel in your body what this feels like. Does this feel expansive in your body? Does this feel constricted in your body? Tune in to your breathing, tune into your stomach, tune into how you feel in general, and that is going to help you. And then another one that I think is really powerful, number 4, is tuning into your younger self and asking yourself, what does she need to feel safe? Now, oftentimes our sabotaging behavior is dealt with the protective mechanism that happens when we were young and when we were forming our subconscious belief system. And so if your patterns of avoidance or procrastination or shrinking down is in alignment with the protective measures that you did as a kid, that little girl inside of you needs to feel safe. And so when you can honor, how can you make that version of you, that little 5-year-old within you, feel safe? You are able to face the fears and then make the aligned good decision that is going to be best for your overall peace. All right. So I hope that really helps. I'm sure I'll be keeping you guys posted on this without giving too much detail in the future episodes, but I'm going to ask you very much for your continued prayer around this, for strength to have hard conversations, to allow me to just manifest this possible situation with ease and joy and peace and flow, and not expecting it to be hard, but expecting it to be something that can be mutually beneficial and go better than what I expect, right? And I just want to say thank you for being on this journey with me. And I hope that some of the things that I'm going through and some of the things that my clients are going through are helping you feel less alone, and that I'm giving you some hope and some practical tools to get you from where you are to where you want to be. So remember that when you feel in alignment, success will flow. Alignment requires you to tune into who you know you are and allow for that success to flow in through you and to you, from you, all the things. And I am so excited to see how this can shift everything for you. Now, I'm going to invite you, if you are feeling like, okay, Lachelle, I really am recognizing that I might have some self-sabotaging patterns, and I'm kind of curious if I have been displaying some of that stuff and it's been what's holding me back. I want to invite you to one of my Success Accelerator calls, where I will give you the 3 key things that you can do specifically for you that are going to shift you from being in the spiral down state to getting back into forward momentum and spiraling up. So make sure that you go to the show notes and book your accelerator call, because I would absolutely love to offer you some free guidance in order to get you unstuck and to get you spiraling back up to where you're meant to be in this life, in this world, and your impact that you're meant to make. So I will see you in the next episode. And until next time, just know that I am cheering you on every single step of the way. So much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Each honest review helps me spiral up so that I can serve you even better. Whether you're feeling a lack of impact, income, or time freedom, or perhaps you're just ready for massive momentum in your business, let's chat. Apply for a breakthrough call so that you can gain clarity, identify what's holding you back, and make a plan to spiral up. Head on over to im-lifebydesign.com/breakthrough or access the link in the show notes. For immediate support, plug into our community, the Better Club. We focus on inspiration, tactical guidance, and support. This is a community that wants to be better, do better, and have better in life and in business, and we're going to help you do the same. Let's spiral up, friends.